what's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike here, and I am talking with Nathan Hertz, the director of the new film that came out of Raindance a couple months ago, Thinestra. Nathan, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Mike. How are you?
I'm excellent. So I'm really excited to talk to you about this film. Jeez, what a fun film this was.
Thank you.
And congrats, your first feature film. How did it feel to head over to London and have it make its world premiere at the Raindance Film Festival?
Well, I mean, it was amazing. Raindance was awesome. We had like a crazy sold out showing, and the reaction in the theater was wild. They even added a second screening for us, which was really cool. And
Nice.
the whole experience was just freaking awesome. Yeah.
So body horror films are really having their moment. We had The Substance last year, we had The Shrouds earlier this year, we have the upcoming film Together that's coming out in a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
What inspired you to get into that genre? Like, what was it that made you want to play in that body horror genre?
Well, like I think that there may be vampires, there might be ghosts, but one thing that we all know will happen is that eventually our bodies will fail us. And so for that reason, I think body horror is actually the scariest subgenre of all horror films. And I wanted to make something that like really explored that idea. And I've like been obsessed with body horror for a long time. I think it's amazing. I mean, it's one of the few things where you'll see people in a theater covering their eyes and not being able to look. Different people have different things. Like I can't stand anything with like fingernails or like teeth falling, so it's all very affecting.
And your film, it's so timely now too, because it's, without giving away too much, like, because what causes this is the weight loss drug. And with everyone now with Ozempic and Wegovy and Zepbound, and oh boy, how did that come about? Like, what, staying within that realm, it's so timely, maybe too timely.
Well, it's something that like as a culture we've been struggling with for a long time. And I personally have had like a crazy journey, like trying to lose weight, trying to keep it off. And I wanted to make a film that explored these ideas for like a long time. And then when these new weight loss drugs, as you described, came out, there felt like there was this huge cultural shift around diet culture and weight loss, and we were like, now is the time to make a film about this issue. And so there was a tremendous lot of like there was like a lot of energy and excitement about making the movie now.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I think it was really like my personal struggle that really fueled my desire to make this film.
No, and you created a protagonist that was very relatable, regardless of your, gender identity. Like in Penny, like
Yeah.
I saw me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like my struggles as well. So, how did the script make its way to you? So, Avra Fox-Lerner wrote this. How did the script make its way to you? How did you
She
come on
sent,
board?
yeah, so she had sent me the sort of concept that and a sort of an original draft of the script a few years prior to actually making the film. And it was really, like I said, like aligned with the kind of movie that I've been looking to make for quite some time. And then once these new drugs came out, we did a sort of rewrite that sort of focused in on these core issues of the film. And that's sort of how it came to be. But to your earlier point, like we get people coming to us saying exactly what you said, which is like, I feel like this film was for me. And even if you read a lot of our reviews, that's what people are like, I feel like it was just for me. And I think so many people relate to this theme. I think that's what's so exciting. That was what was so exciting about the script. And I feel like what's been sort of motivating
Yeah.
about it.
So, as you were working on this film, did you have any particular influences or approaches that you were thinking about when you went into this, or do you have any general like filmmakers that look to when you're crafting your pieces?
Yeah, so like I think like for body horror, it really squares down to Cronenberg and The Fly. For me, like that was the film when I was growing up, like just completely captured my imagination. I've seen it so many times, and there's always something new to find in that movie. But Finestra is like a really mixed genre film. So like
Mhm.
I was also inspired by like sort of problematic rom-coms as well. So like I was thinking about Bridget Jones's Diary a lot. I
Mhm.
mean, that is a crazy movie. I don't know when the last time you saw Bridget Jones's Diary, but
recently. I just rewatched
Recently,
them all
yeah.
when the new film came out.
Oh, nice, nice. So, it's like, first of all, she's like beautiful from the start of the movie, right? So the idea that she goes on any kind of transformation is preposterous. The second thing is that she's like harassed by her boss. Like the behavior that happens with her at work is like completely unforgivable now.
Yeah.
Um, but I think those were the films that I saw my mom watching. Those were the films about weight loss. I mean, when you look at other movies, they can be quite exceptionalized. Like I think The Nutty Professor in some ways. I mean, that movie's crazy, but it had a lot of heart. It follows a similar kind of like, I don't know, trajectory of our film as well. So
Yeah.
all these films were kind of like circling, I suppose, when we were making Thinestra.
So I want to ask a little bit about the casting process. How did you find Michelle and Melissa? Because they are phenomenal.
Oh, thank you so much. So yeah, we decided to have identical twins playing the same role, and they're both obviously beautiful actors. They have slightly different body shapes, and so we thought we might be able to accentuate that on camera to show a bigger transformation. Um, and you know, I came to my producers so ready to convince them. Melissa and Michelle are the perfect people for this project, and independently, they came to the same meeting ready to convince me of that as well. And so we're like, this is amazing. There's no one else on the planet that could take this part like they can. And yeah, we're very lucky.
Nice. Now with the film, it was really interesting. So as I was watching it, and I'm like, huh, there's a lot going on here. You set this film at one of what should be the happiest times of the year, the holidays.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I'm a sour, because I'm a Grinch. That's why. Um, Christmas for me has always been a total pressure cooker because there's all the delicious foods, of course, all the sweets. There's a feeling of like, just let loose. It's the holidays. Yet at the same time, you've got the new year coming up, right? And that's such a loaded idea. Am I heavier last year than I was this year? Like how has my body changed over the course of this year? And then what are my resolutions going to be like? And so for me, it's always been like just the perfect setting for the film. It's also so weird, like Christmas in Los Angeles, like 90-degree temperatures, but like everyone's in sweaters, it just sort of felt like interesting.
And something else, the film, you relied a lot on practical effects, which I appreciate because I love when we can go more practical. I don't love everything having to be CGI'd. So,
Yeah.
what were your conversations like when you were working with your visual effects compositor Colby Visker, your special effects makeup artist Alexandra Bayless? How did you guys go about coming up with your concepts and what these things were going to look like?
Oh man, we first of all with our incredibly talented special effects makeup artist Alexander Bayless, we had a whole day where we just dedicated to finding like the disgusting, oily, slightly bloody fat substance that would be leaking out of Penny, and then we used these incredible like this sort of like tubing so that we could like propel it out of her body essentially, and how we were going to hide that. So we had this incredibly creative fun. We were running around the pantry, like trying different things. And we created like our signature concoction, something like what maybe you might find exploding out of a pimple or something. So yeah, so yeah, that was super important to me. I mean, I'm a huge fan of practical effects, and the visual effects that we did have to do were relatively simple, like maybe some wire removal here or there, stuff like that. So
And it was funny. I even found myself at moments I was, and I don't like to spoil too much on these, but I even found myself as I was going to do like going like this, like I kind of felt myself like
yeah, yeah, like
wiping my hands, I was
yeah,
like, ugh.
yeah. I think
If this
what
film had been in 3D, I don't know if I'd have made it at certain points.
That's awesome, man. I'm so glad you had that experience. I mean, the weird thing about it for me is like I've seen it so many times. It's also kind of a fantasy, right? Like just being able to like squeeze out the fat and be like, okay, I'm done with it. Like, so it's both like horrifying, disgusting, but I think by the end of the film, like our main character is also like a little bit into it as well.
Yeah.
She's like kind of getting off on it slightly.
Well, and that's a thing. So it's like they make this decision. Penny makes this decision to take this drug and go through this process. And so even though this is a body horror and a horror film, it actually does raise some of those interesting, like reflective, like philosophical questions, like are these the right moves for me to make, and what are the
Yeah.
ramifications of exploring different things
When,
in a
yeah,
heightened reality, obviously.
no, no, for sure. I mean, I think like the central question of the film is like, how far are you willing to go to lose weight or transform your body or do whatever it is you want to do? And these new drugs are posing that question to a lot of people. How much am I willing to pay?
Mhm.
Like, am I willing to inject myself for the rest of my life? You know, like, um, and whatever people's choices are, like, like that's totally fine and legitimate. And it's not like a meant to be like a major like takedown or critique of these drugs. I think they can be really great. It's more just like people having to ask themselves that question, like,
Right.
okay, like, what are my options now? Like, because there's always been like liposuction. But, anyway, we don't have to get into all that.
And mini spoiler, but not really. So I'm really curious to know one of my favorite one of my favorite sequences, and I'm curious to know, was Donut King a sponsor, and what was your donut budget like for this film?
Donut King received patronage, for sure. It was a mutually beneficial exchange. We have, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, 100,000 donuts in our movie. It's sort of, we've lost count. Yeah, I was on some extreme diet and I was having these dreams of donuts. And then like in my dreams, I was trapped in a prison of donuts and the only way I could escape was to eat, which is of course all I wanted to do. But it showed how split we can become, right? Like
Mhm.
how we divide ourselves between like what we really want, what we allow ourselves, how we want to look, so anyway, I thought those dreams were super useful and we used them in the film. So we created a
And clearly well done. It was such a fun sequence to see.
donut.
Um, so this is what I like to call my educational part of the interviews that I do with filmmakers, because I love to spread knowledge. So this was your first feature film, but you have a history. You had done some music videos and you had directed some shorts. What were some of the learnings that you had that you brought into making this as your first feature film? Like what steps did you bring? And now that you've done your first feature, what was something you learned that you're like, you know what, I need to take this when I go into my next project?
Yeah. I love that question. So, I mean, essentially, from the time I was like maybe in like my early 20s, I said to myself, like, I really want to direct a feature film. I've always loved films, like, and I feel like I had like this imagination, and if I could only express it like through a film, like I would really like it would be a really amazing experience. So, I started as a PA, I was working on other people's short films. I became a producer. I worked as an assistant director for a long time, which is a really tough job, but an extremely like valuable job for filmmakers who want to learn how to run a set. Um, and I did all of those sort of things and really put all that work in with that sort of goal in mind, and it was very motivational for me for a long time. And so my advice to young filmmakers is to work on other people's sets, figure out how you can be on set and have your own personal goals, but really fall into the mindset of what can I do to help this production? Like how can I be in service of this film, of this idea, of this vision? If you can do that for other people, when it comes to making your own film, you'll be able to do that for yourself as well. And I think it's what keeps you going because it's not necessarily easy.
Nice.
So that advice kind of like segues into what I've probably my biggest takeaway, which would be, consider your life after you make a movie too. It's like I kind of worked myself up to this point, and now I'm kind of on this other side of it, and I'm like, okay, well, what's my next project? And like management, representation, sales, distribution, like the world goes on, right? And you have to figure out how to navigate it what's going to motivate you next, like how to keep going. So I think that's something that I learned, or I'm still learning. I don't know. I've arrived.
And when people watch Thinestra, what are you hoping that they take away from it after they spend 85 minutes in your world?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people in our culture struggle with these issues, and there's a major taboo around them. There really is. People don't like to talk about it. You're kind of meant to either just outright love your body or be working towards a better body or already have like a great body that you're totally fine with. And if you don't have any of those things, you're left with basically shame and guilt. Like, what's wrong with me that I'm not able to achieve these goals? Um, and because there's so much shame culturally around this issue, I hope people walk away from our film feeling more at least connected to other people. Like, hey, we're all going through this together. Like, this is something like you're not alone in struggling with. Like, in fact, here are the issues on screen. Like, here's the fat monster outside of you. Be scared of her, laugh at her, whatever. But like, we're all experiencing this together. So maybe just a sense of community.
Nice. And one fun one to kind of close this out. So we talked about, you set this at the holiday because that's when all the greatest temptations are, probably closely followed by Thanksgiving. If you could, without any consequence, just go to town on something on the Christmas table,
Oh,
what would it
oh,
be?
jeez. How dare you ask me that question, Mike? How dare you? Well, I think it's pretty
I'll
clear.
answer it if you do.
I'm pretty sure it's clear from the film that I'm a pastry man. I love the chocoholics out there. I mean, for me, I love cheese and I love bready, sweet desserts. So yeah, I need to watch myself at that time of year.
I would
How
get
about you?
lost. I would get lost in a pool of sweet potato pie, just maple syrup with
Oh,
sweet potatoes with
oh,
marshmallows on top. I'd drown in a sea of sweet potato pie.
you're never gonna find your way out. You're lost.
All right. Well, Nathan, thank you so much. Best of luck with the film. Those that are watching, keep an eye out for Thinestra. Hopefully, it will make its way to a theater near you. And thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.